Now we're learning about World War I. And World War I is one of the most significant wars for us, and it has really set the stage for everything that we're going to be looking at for the rest of the year. Now, you all know that the smart board ain't smart anymore. It's not working to touch, so I'm going to be in and out. But this will be, you're seeing this on Edpuzzle, so you know you can stop it at any time, go back, re-listen to the information. We're going to zoom through this. Here are some of the vocabulary. We've really stressed a lot of these already, and we're going to be adding some more next week. And we talked about under imperialism and nationalism, the grab that all the countries in Europe were really doing, taking over different continents. They just felt like they had the right to do it because of their nationalism and the idea of social Darwinism. Well, we have more technologies, we're better than they are. And so you can see that Africa, apart from Ethiopia and Liberia, is really a colonized continent. They have no self-autonomy where they are controlling anything. And this is really significant because once different countries start going to war, for example, this area is owned by Great Britain, and then you have your Germans, East Africa, and here. And so not only will you have fighting in Europe in World War I, but you're going to have people that, since they are under the control of Germany and under the control of Great Britain, there are going to be people from these African areas that are going to be in Europe now fighting, and there's going to be even fighting in Africa between these two areas because they're governed by these other countries. And so the thing that made colonialism, imperialism, nationalism so significant is if they did not come and take control of these areas, it wouldn't have been a world war. It would have been a war fought in Europe. But now, because of the colonies they've claimed and the land that was under their control, it has created a world war. That was what it looked like in Africa. Here's another example in the East, in Asia. And Great Britain had India for a long time. You can see here the French with Indochina, which is a precursor to the French had it, fighting the communists, which pulled us into Vietnam. So the colonization and all this, us having the Philippines, all this really does impact far into the future than what you think. Here is a picture of the British Empire at this time at the turn of the century. And they had strongholds or areas that they claimed. They claimed a whole freaking continent. So the whole idea of this is what I got and this is mine, and I will show you clips of a movie that talks about an Australia unit that fought for Great Britain here in Gallipoli. So this really is what brought us made this a world war. Now, as the countries grabbed land, they had agreements with one another to ensure that their land and interests were safe. So it's like saying, I got your back, you got mine. I'll take this land, you take that, you watch my back, I'll watch yours, and if somebody attacks me, you're there. If somebody attacks you, I'm there. And these agreements were called alliances. It was a formal agreement between these nations that I'm going to take care of you and you're going to take care of me. This means that one country has an agreement with another country that if someone causes one country harm. So, how does that lead us into a total world war? Just because you have an alliance or you have an agreement, that doesn't necessitate a war, but here it did. Because the different alliances, here you have Germany, Austria-Hungary, Ottoman Empire, they were a rival. It's like me and UNC, as you can tell they're playing, and Duke. They're a rival. They are against the other group. The other group were the alliances, which was Great Britain, France, Russia, Italy was on both sides, so towards the end Italy came. And so you have these two rival groups. And so you attack one, you attack another. One of the other things that really contributed during as colonization happened and these countries were all over the world trying to grab up land is so they can keep their land. They said, aha, we need to have weapons. We need to ensure we can defend this new land we're taking. And so this shows how they compete against each other. They competed against each other in an arms race. Who could get the most technologically advanced arms, who could have the biggest navy, who could do all this stuff. This was the big contest between them. And you can see how defense spending, what the countries paid out of their budget to defend and come up with new weapons, grew insanely till we get to 1914 and the war starts. Here are your two groups of alliances. You have your Central Powers. The main people in that group was Germany, Austria-Hungary. The Allies were Great Britain, France, and Russia. But in 1917, Russia drops out and the United States come in. And there are three factors that push the United States into this. So we have these two different groups. Now again, this just shows you again that they had really built up their arms, and so all we're waiting for is the one spark between these two groups and their armies to set things off. And we see that the spark happens in the Baltics. So this is where it was happening. This is Europe, 1914. And what we're basically going to be looking at was we're going to be looking down here at Austria-Hungary and this country Serbia. Now Serbia was taken over by Austria-Hungary, and any time a country is taken over by another one, there's a whole history of resentment there. And so the Serbs, there were terrorist groups. There was a terrorist group called the Black Hand in Serbia who were very resentful of the Austrians having control of their country. And so the leader of Austria-Hungary, the Archduke Ferdinand, decides, well, I'm going to come to Sarajevo and I'm going to take a tour of this land that I really have control over, which was not the best decision for him because he never made it back home. That was the spark that started the war. In the Balkans, and this area here is called the Balkans. And there is your, the Ottoman Turks. And so Serbia contained Slavs, Serbs, Muslims, and Huns. And this meant that these different groups had relationships with people outside of this land called Serbia. Slavic Russians were very interested in the Slavs that lived there. You have the independent Serbs, you have Muslims from Turkey, and you have the Huns of Austria-Hungary. So you have all these different diverse groups living there, and you have countries outside of Serbia that have an interest in these groups. So here we go. This is the problem. The Black Hand, this terrorist group that I mentioned before, goes to kill the Archduke. They kill him, and this is the spark. This starts the explosion. So the Archduke is assassinated. Austria and Hungary, he represented them, they accuse Serbia of supporting this terrorist group. And Russia says, you better leave Serbia alone because I got their back. So Russia supports Serbia against Austria-Hungary. And then you have Germany who has an alliance with Austria-Hungary, and they're like, Russia, you better leave Austria-Hungary alone. And Germany declares war against Russia, and Russia had an ally. They had an ally with France. So now France is brought in the war because they are on Russia's side. And then Germany invades Belgium, and England had an alliance with Belgium. So England goes, hey, we're in. We're part of the war too. So one assassination, one bullet, pulled the whole world into a war. We'll continue with the next video in a minute.